Welcome to Truth Sentinel, watching over the truth in the news. Today's date is the 31st of July 2014. A warm welcome to all listeners. Thanks for your support. As always, I appreciate it. Currently in London, thinking of heading to Ukraine and then to Thailand later. Who knows where I'll end up? I mean, I haven't decided where to go exactly, leaving my plans open at the moment. Today's news, let's just go through some of the things I've noticed in the news, in the mainstream news. US House of Representatives has passed a resolution to sue Barack Obama for allegedly exceeding his constitutional powers. It'll be interesting to see how that goes. That's very interesting. Good to see someone's trying to keep him on his toes anyway. In London, in England, up to about 150 people are going to be taking part in trials of making people who've been involved in any kind of offences related to alcohol. They're going to have to wear tags where they're going to be monitored as to their consumption. I just thought it was interesting. I mean, how long is it going to be before we're all going to be wearing tags or some kind of chip, and it's going to be monitoring us for our drink intake, food intake, drugs intake, with, obviously ID as well. I don't know if I mentioned already, but when I landed at the airport in London, my face or eye was scanned, and I was basically, it was much faster. So I mean, there are some benefits to it. I was able to go through the airport within about a few minutes if I was going to go through this machine. And I think that's what's going to tempt people to take part in all this and accept all this technology, is that it's going to make people's lives easier. Personally, I'll accept it to a certain point, but when it comes to having a microchip under the skin, I think that's where I'm going to draw the line. I'm not going to take that. Let me know how you feel about that. Do you feel like this technology is inevitable? Chips under the skin, or are you going to put up some kind of fight before you have to take it? I reckon it's probably going to happen within the next 15, 20 years anyway. Maybe sooner, who knows? It depends what happens in the world. They can rush these things in. If there's a world war, for example, which it does seem to be heading that way, if World War III, depending on how long it lasts, after every war, society changes and they can bring in all kinds of things. Anyway, I am deviating from the news slightly here. Driverless cars are coming to the streets of the UK in less than 6 months. So people will be able to get driverless taxis before long. They'll be able to get a driverless taxi to the supermarket and then get served by a computer, which we have. Maybe you have them in the States. I'm sure you probably have. So a lot of cashiers have disappeared from the supermarkets and have been replaced with computers where you can just check through the food yourself and then walk away. Okay, women across Turkey are posting photos of themselves laughing and smiling on social media because Turkey's Deputy Prime Minister talked about moral corruption in a speech, and was said basically that women were not supposed to laugh in public. Of course, this prompted a huge backlash from women on social media in Turkey, with thousands posting photos of themselves laughing and smiling. It's great how people in Turkey are responding to this ridiculous government that are trying to control people. I mean, it's great, and I can completely understand why there's revolutions over there and they're fighting, because you can't control people in this way. You can't tell people when they're going to laugh and when they're not. It's ridiculous. Okay, I mean, some of them basically said the government should be focusing on issues like rape and domestic violence and marriage of girls at a young age, rather than women laughing in public. Militant Islamists in Somalia have shot dead a Muslim woman for refusing to wear a veil, according to her relatives. This nomadic woman was killed outside her hut near the Somali town of Hosingau by gunmen belonging to the Al-Shabaab group. This is according to mainstream media, of course. I do look at mainstream media. It still serves a purpose. There are many occasions where they're obviously lying, but I still think we can read between the lines with mainstream media. Okay, so the Palestinian-Israeli situation has been ongoing, and it's been interesting to see how media are reacting to the situation. It used to be that the US were very much on the side of Israel and didn't really say many negative things. Um, Everything seems to be switching towards against Israel, basically. I mean, partly because of the amount of deaths. I mean, the last count, I think, was 1,200 Palestinians dead and only 50 Israelis because they've been intercepting the rockets that have been coming over. My opinion is Hamas is obviously a terrorist group. If they're firing on civilians as well, then they're not much better. But the Israeli forces and what they've been doing in this bloodshed is just not doing themselves any favor. They're killing lots of people. This is a mess again, and I think Israel's going to be coming off much worse in another way, and obviously not in the death toll because they're much lower. But I think they're going to lose support. Basically, the US have already come out and condemned their actions. And people who of a religious persuasion and who read Revelations in the Bible will be looking at how this is tying in. Basically, I mean, in Revelations. The end times and Armageddon, it talks about the armies of the world surrounding Israel, and certainly they're in a position where the countries of the world are turning against them. Okay, let's just move on. Ukraine, the situation ongoing there. The Ukrainians have seized a town near Donetsk as fighting intensifies in the east. Putin has obviously been strongly accused of shooting down this plane, MH17. Personally, I think there needs to be a full investigation, but can you really trust any investigation these days? I mean, who's going to do the investigation? If the Russians do it, can you trust the results? If Western powers do an investigation, can you trust the results? Not really. That's why information these days is so cloudy and it's difficult to know who to believe. Personally, I'll just tell you my opinion. I don't think Putin had much to do with this. It wouldn't be in his interest. And so this could have been shot down by the Ukrainians under the heavily influenced by Western powers to achieve their ends, and that's quite something to say that, because I hope it's not true. A lot of things, speculation and things I say, I hope they're not true, but it's not looking good. Let's just say that. Anyway, so things are ongoing in Ukraine. It's still mostly happening in the east. So if I do go back, I'll be going back to Odessa and just hoping that things stay okay there. There's been a lot I've noticed, I don't know if you've noticed this, but there's been a lot of viruses in the news. I do sometimes wonder if they're just getting people used to the idea of deadly viruses occurring, because I heard about the bubonic plague sort of re-emerging in some areas, and the Ebola virus in Africa seems to be posing a huge threat, and it's been talked about how we need to strengthen the resistance for against any viruses and having all the remedies available for the Ebola virus if it comes to the UK. I'm always suspicious when they start talking about viruses, because if you believe that the global elite do want to depopulate the earth, which could well be the case, then a virus and a war seem to be the way that they could do it. We're going to be talking about the entertainment industry today, and Rolf Harris, who was a popular entertainer in the UK, he's appealed against the length of his sentence, and I think other people have appealed against the length of his sentence, saying it was too lenient. He was jailed for 5 years and 9 months for 12 indecent assaults on 4 girls, and I mean, the child abuse situation in the UK is just getting crazy. I mean, I think it was last month it was revealed that a document had been lost giving the names of people in positions of power in the UK, and that was lost, and there's going to be an investigation, but that seems to have gone a bit quiet at the moment. They always try to put some distance between coming out with the truth, by leaving months and months, sometimes years and years, sometimes even decades, so that people don't care anymore. But I really hope that some people get justice, and that people at the top, it doesn't matter how far it goes. There's talk of former prime ministers being involved in this, in child abuse, and cabinet ministers and things like that. So let's see what happens, and let's hope that whoever has taken part in this is brought to justice. Also in the entertainment world news, Drew Barrymore's half-sister was found dead, slumped in her car with some pills nearby. And we're going to be talking about a lot of cases like that later on in today's program. Today's program is celebrity deaths, the entertainment industry. It's going to be the main theme anyway. And if we stick with the entertainment industry, Paramount Pictures has apologized over a teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle poster that accidentally referenced 9/11 terrorist attacks. It's got some teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles falling out of a building that's on fire and crumbling down, and the release date was September the 11th, so that wasn't really a very wise poster to make. David Duchovny is becoming quite popular in Russia because of an advert for a Russian drinks company that celebrates the country's national identity by commenting on his Russian roots and sort of looking at how life may have been for him if he'd grown up in Russia. So his name is trending in Russia, but since the trending of his name, he's since found out he's actually Ukrainian rather than Russian, which is quite topical. Lawyers acting for a man who claims he was sexually abused by X-Men director Bryan Singer have asked to withdraw the case. This was Jeff Herman and Mark Gallagher, who'd filed a court motion saying they no longer wanted to represent Michael Egan because of their relationship had broken down. Mr. Egan was a former child model and aspiring actor who's now alleging that he was lured into a sex ring at parties at which Mr. Singer was present. Now, last episode we had the second part of our discussion with Lorian Fenton about super soldiers and mind control. Today we're going to be talking about celebrity deaths, control of the entertainment industry, which also, mind control is part of that as well. I mean, if you think about the Disney sort of mind control. Also, we're very fortunate to have a Hollywood actor with us today as well. So first of all, I'm going to talk to one of our Truth Sentinel researchers, and we're just going to have a chat about the topic of celebrity deaths, and just as an introduction to the topic, just talk about our current knowledge of some of the deaths that have occurred, and then we're going to go over to our Hollywood actor, who I'll introduce later. And he can give us some background information as to what it was like working at Hollywood, and how he has become a targeted individual for not following the rules and not doing as he's told. Okay, so first of all, let's go over to Ron, one of our Truth Sentinel researchers, and let's have a chat with him about some of the celebrity deaths that have occurred over the years. Yeah, there's been an alarming amount of deaths in the entertainment industry and amongst celebrities. For example, more recently, Peaches Geldof from the UK, Amy Winehouse, Lady Diana, James Dean, Natalie Wood. There's a long list. I'm joined here by one of Truth Sentinel's researchers called Ron. Ron, can you think of, have you come across any other names that have caught your interest?
Hi Scott. Yeah, well, there's plenty. I mean, spanning back a number of years. For example, more recently, Brittany Murphy. I'm not sure if you're aware of her case, and her husband as well.
Yeah, they died in mysterious circumstances. I think the more recent articles I've read say they potentially were poisoned.
Yes, well, she certainly was. I'm not sure if I think he was poisoned in the same way a number of weeks later. But that's quite an in-depth story you might want to go into. We'll
definitely try and come over to that one in a while.
Also, Brandon Lee, Bruce Lee, father and son. Obviously, some mysterious circumstances. In fact, that there was a gun we shouldn't have a real bullet in, which was used on set.
Which you'd think they might have checked.
Yeah, exactly.
There was Aaliyah. Do you remember Aaliyah? That up and coming singer.
Yeah, she died in a plane crash. I'm not sure of the exact circumstances, but she was very young. But definitely in terms of conspiracy, there's people such as Kurt Cobain, the reggae artist Bob Marley, Pete Tosh, and you go back to John Lennon as well, and Jimi Hendrix, and you could talk for a number of hours about all the different...
You could indeed, and we're only going to just basically skirt over the topic today. We're just introducing the topic, and maybe we'll get a guest to come on and go into more detail. So we're just going to talk about, people like we've already mentioned, also say Whitney Houston, Michael Jackson, Paul Walker of Fast and Furious, James Gandolfini, Corey Monteith from Glee.
Yeah, there's so many celebrities who've died from either drug-related or suicides, or seemingly a larger amount than you would have thought would have happened.
Just personally, I think the probability-wise, it just seems like an unnatural amount in one industry that have died, and some of them under suspicious circumstances. So we're going to have a look at those today. We're just going to brainstorm the topic. Now, one topic that seems to be linked to this is Operation Mockingbird. What do you think the link is?
Well, basically, Operation Mockingbird was something which was created in the 1950s by the CIA in America, and there's a Wikipedia reference you can look up, which is how I found out most of my information about it. But basically, they realised that the entertainment industry, which really came to fruition in the 1950s after World War II, was a great way of being able to sort of influence people on a mass sort of scale. And they could infiltrate various areas of the sort of society and do whatever objective that's been laid out by their superiors.
Yeah, one of the superiors was Cord Meyer, who was apparently in charge of Operation Mockingbird initially, and it was overtaken in 1953 by Alan Dulles, director of the CIA.
Well, yes, basically they've admitted that they have infiltrated areas of society, but could have continued and probably has continued till this day.
I'm sure it's continuing to this day.
And like a number of things, you can see the foundations of various government programs, but you don't know where they might be now because of the age of technology that we're in.
Exactly. I'm sure we'll find out in maybe 20 or 30 years what they've been up to.
Exactly. But basically, this clearly laid out the fact that the government were interested in what celebrities, as such, we consider do, because celebrities are people who, musicians or actors, or even to extent you have, sadly, politicians, but people like that, but people who are famous in the public eye, a lot of the public will listen to and can hang on their every word depending on how you deal with it. People like John Lennon spoke out, advocates of peace and didn't want violence, and people like that can, give a voice to a lot of people who agreed with him.
Indeed, it does seem like if you just do as you're told and keep your head down, things are going to be okay. But any celebrity who has a lot of influence and then starts getting involved in politics could find themselves in trouble.
Yeah, well, I believe there's been a definite attempt to dumb down people via the media and to get people obsessed with celebrities like they're gods, and not to really care much about much else.
They do. For some people, they do. They are like gods. I mean, if you look at some of the more obsessed fans of celebrities, it does, to me, I can't quite understand where they're coming from. They're screaming, they're waiting for them outside their houses. It's not healthy, that's for sure. But yeah, they are. It's almost because they're filling a hole in that person's life. They need something to worship, maybe, and so they've chosen a certain celebrity.
Well, exactly. I mean, a lot of people's lives aren't particularly great at the moment because it hasn't been for a while. There's not a lot of money around, and there's a lot of corruption, and we'll get into great details about that. But people latch on to other people's lives through entertainment, and a lot of people wish they were them and aspire to be them, and have the dream to become a celebrity too.
Well, yeah, and people talk about role models, and they sort of criticise a celebrity if they're not doing something which they think is good for a role model to do. I mean, they haven't really asked to be in that situation, but a lot of them, well, some of them did want to become famous. These days, it seems like that seems to be the goal. It's not whether you've got a talent; it's whether it's just becoming famous for the sake of it.
Well, yeah, there's this seemingly unhealthy craving for fame that too many people have.
It is. I mean, some of the celebrities who have been murdered were murdered by people who wanted fame, and I'm thinking of John Lennon again. Mark Chapman, he's actually said that one of the reasons he did it was because he wanted the notoriety.
Plus, well, going back to what we were saying about the government, though, you can create this kind of monster, and then if somebody is actually in control of it to an extent, they can use it to have the voice that someone like John Lennon used to, or Bob Marley, and use it to whatever they want. And from what I see, the voice is to promote greed, materialism, and just a lot of vanity in the entertainment industry.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, there seem to be some sort of celebrities that have maybe come from reality shows like Big Brother and that maybe don't have any particular political views, and because younger people copy them, it seems the things that they're trying to emulate are things like, wearing fake tan, focusing on makeup, just basically things that aren't that important.
Well, exactly. Reality TV has come a long way since Big Brother first came on the scene.
Let's move on to our first celebrity we wanted to talk about, mostly because it's in the UK, so we know a bit more about it, and because it's current, basically. Peaches Geldof.
Yeah.
Allegedly died of a drugs overdose. They're looking for a drug dealer who they reckon might have supplied her the heroin. What do you know about Peaches Geldof case, anyway?
Well, I mean, I didn't know that much about her other than that she'd been in the public eye a bit, obviously for being Bob's daughter. Sorry, Sir Bob, I should be saying. I saw her argument she had with Katie Hopkins, if you're aware of her.
Yeah, I saw that.
On This Morning.
They were talking about parenting. A type of parenting called attachment parenting, which Peaches mentioned was basically where the mother responds to the child's needs. Like if the child cries, then they try to get there as quickly as possible and tend to the child. If they go to sleep at night, the child often sleeps on the same bed. It just seems to be basically what I always thought normal parenting was. So there was a debate as to whether it was a bit new age, but it all seemed fairly normal to me, like breastfeeding. It promotes breastfeeding and things like that.
Yeah, well, exactly. I thought she seemed like a pretty well-rounded individual. She seemed to really care about her kids. That seemed to be the most important thing to her.
What was the conspiracy around her death, would you say?
Yeah, basically, the reason I mentioned this is the fact that she seemed pretty much with it. She didn't seem like someone who was actually struggling with a heroin addiction. Obviously, she did have a past with it, which is well documented. But she seemed like pretty focused on her life and her kids, and then only a short amount of time later, she's found in the state she was in, supposedly having taken, which we can go to in a second, but it was 60% pure heroin, which is 40% stronger than your average on the street.
Perfect if you wanted someone to take an overdose, or if you wanted to take an overdose yourself. But
well, apparently there's a gang being searched for who are related to stalking celebrities and trying to get them to take really powerful drugs, but it doesn't really quite make sense to me how it would help or make money for them by killing someone. If you're going to give such a high dose, it's going to be a danger, isn't it? So it seems to me like they're more trying to kill somebody rather than but who knows, there definitely seemed to be something suspicious.
Yeah, Douglas Dietrich mentioned about the cult that she belonged to, or organisation, should I say. She had OTO tattooed on her body, which a lot of people are saying are basically the Illuminati, or they're the new organisation of choice or religion of choice for celebrities these days.
Yes, well, look on the internet quite easily, the amount of symbology of Freemasons and Illuminati and all sorts of different cults spread throughout the entertainment industry, really. OTO, I believe, they are related to Aleister Crowley, and they also sort of worship have similar beliefs to the Knights Templar predecessors to them, which are an ancient order, and they are a secret society who have, one of their oaths is to not tell anybody their secrets, as often obviously they're secret societies.
Yeah, it's actually called Ordo Templi Orientis, which is the Order of the Temple of the East, or Order of Oriental Templars. So it has got links to the Masons as well.
Been related to Satanism through the fact that, one of the facts I know of, one of their deities is Baphomet, who is related to Satanism. The Church of Satan apparently took that image on, but certainly there's a link to Aleister Crowley, who he's a very controversial figure. He's been involved in all sorts of conspiracy theories. You can see also plenty of references to satanic imagery and references to Satanism in some of his books, but then there's also the opposite as well, and some people believe there's a lot of hidden agenda, a lot of misdirection as to what a lot of these cults actually do.
Well, half the time that's the problem. Nobody quite knows, because you don't really know until you join. Now let's move on to another UK singer, Amy Winehouse. There weren't that many people who were shocked when she died in July 2011. She was found dead in her London home. I mean, everyone knew she had a problem with alcohol and drugs. But doesn't that often seem to be the case, that if people did want to bump these celebrities off, it'd be quite easy if they're already known to be addicted to alcohol and drugs? I mean, all you need to do is leave a bottle beside their bed and everyone accepts it as truth.
Well, just from the previous case I mentioned there was an admittance that there might be groups going after celebrities purposely to get them addicted to certain drugs or whatever, and to get money from them and extort them basically. But to what level that could go, who knows?
She was 27 as well, so she joins the group of 27 of celebrities who die at that particular age.
Well, that's another conspiracy entirely. Where some people say it's ridiculous, but a number of well-known, mostly musicians, I believe, died at the age of 27. But then people claim those musicians died at the age of 28, etc. So I'm not sure about that one so much.
And also, a lot of celebrities actually seem to be involved in photo shoots that depict their own death. I mean, there was Kurt Cobain, there was a photo of him with a gun in his mouth. Amy Winehouse.
I saw an image of her lying on the floor with blood coming out of her. Some photo shoot.
Yeah, and others I've heard mention a Tupac Heath Ledger as well. And Brittany Murphy, who we'll talk about as well. In fact, let's move on to Brittany Murphy now. What do you know about the Brittany Murphy case?
Well, that's a very strange one, certainly. But there is a strong conspiracy theory around the fact that also her husband died in the same kind of way, in the same house, and her own father has claimed that the government poisoned her and her husband in revenge for supporting a whistleblower. I'm not sure if you're aware of this story.
Yeah, wasn't that Julia Davis, who worked for Border Control, and she claimed that they were letting in terrorists across the Mexican border, and that there was some concern that Islamist terrorists could get in as well, and she was trying to raise this with her bosses and was getting nowhere. And I think Brittany Murphy was supporting her basically, and I heard there was an incident where Black Hawk helicopters were involved.
Well, yeah, I've seen an interview with Julia Davis, who has basically said that she thinks Brittany Murphy and her husband were killed for supporting her, and that she was followed around everywhere by the government, and that's why she believes these people were killed.
Yeah, even a family member said that you just don't have two people die like that under those circumstances. They're both young. Brittany Murphy died suddenly in the bathroom of her house. And wasn't there also another person, a friend of Brittany Murphy, called Sky Bartusiak, the 21-year-old actress?
Yes, that's right. Well, I know that they appeared in the same film together a couple of times. I'm not sure how much friends they were, but she's, I believe, strangely died recently. Inexplicably, she was found in a room. There's no reasons been given yet. She's found in her bedroom. Her mother says she never did drugs, and she's just can't understand what's happened. And but she died on the same day of Brittany Murphy's death inquiry closed. I believe, a bizarre coincidence.
Could be a coincidence. Let's move on to David Carradine. Now, David Carradine was found during the fall of 2009, found dead in a hotel room in Bangkok, Thailand, where he was shooting his latest film. Do you know anything about that case?
Well, he died in bizarre circumstances, I believe. Some kind of similar to Michael Hutchins, wasn't it? But
that's right. Yeah.
Some kind of strange strangulation, sexual.
Erotic asphyxiation, I think, is the technical term.
That's the one.
Which, Michael Hutchins was supposed to have died of as well. Paulie Yates, I think, was a drugs overdose I mentioned before.
Oh yeah, I mean that obviously goes back to in terms of David Carradine, but there's some story that he was looking into some secret society himself.
Apparently martial arts secret societies, and Carradine's agent said he believed that David Carradine had been murdered. So, if people close to these people, like family members and agents, are saying it, then you've got to wonder whether there's something going on. Foul play may be involved.
Yeah, definitely. I found it strange myself.
Let's move on to Heath Ledger. His is a classic case again, where I think if people have a known drug problem, found with a bottle of pills next to him, which just seems to me, if you wanted to kill someone and then just make it look like they commit suicide, especially a celebrity, you just need to leave a bottle of pills next to them.
It's often strange as well that people at the height of their career to do something like that. He's just he was playing the Joker in the Batman, and he's considered a very good actor.
That was in The Dark Knight, which is also subject of some conspiracies.
There's a lot of conspiracy involved with that film. Sandy Hook.
Sandy Hook's linked to it because a part of the movie The Dark Knight, I think it's on a map, and the cinema shooting where people were killed, and that people say that there was more than one shooter involved. And the guy that did it, James Holmes, he seems the perfect sort of mind control victim. He, if you looked at him, his trial, he seemed clearly completely out of it. Whether he was on drugs, I don't know.
No, definitely. MK Ultra, whole mind control aspect of that was part of this Operation Mockingbird, I believe. In my opinion, I think this would have been used to a certain extent. They could stop people being troublesome, or they could use people and use, this guy from the cinema shooting, he disappeared for a couple of years, I believe, before...
yeah, it's often the case.
He did this.
Same as Adam Lanza, sort of a period of their life when nobody's quite sure what they're up to, and then later on they take part in an atrocity. Anyway, Heath Ledger, apparently no prescription was written by his doctors, but he was found with these pills and was alone when he died. Who knows what really happened to him? We're just saying, could he be one of these people that the Illuminati, OTO, or whoever you want to say is in control, may have decided that he was doing something they weren't happy with, or he wasn't being obedient. Another one would be Whitney Houston. She died apparently in a hotel bathtub on February 11th, 2012. What do you know about her?
Well, initially everyone just heard that she had drowned, I believe. She drowned in a bathtub.
That's right, yeah.
A bit strange, naturally.
Drowned in a bathtub, which is apparently the heat was the heat of the water would have burned her skin. That's what I heard, anyway.
That's right, and there's the fact of the matter is, it's another one of those celebrity deaths where it doesn't seem clean cut in the way it comes out in the news. There seems to be, you're almost left with some suspicious feeling, but there's nothing quite. There's this alleged water issue.
But some people say that she and some others of these celebrities that die in slightly suspicious circumstances are actually sacrifices.
Well, this is a theory I've read about. There's a lot of Illuminati, important numbers, numerology involved with rituals.
And they mostly odd numbers, aren't they?
Yeah.
3, 5, 7, 9, 11.
Well, 9, 11, 7, 9, 11, and 13. I mean,
She died on February the 11th. So, you know, I mean, I'm not a big someone who's big into these numbers, although I do think dates are important, because some of them do seem to tie up with satanic ritual dates, or you know, stuff like the summer solstice and things like that.
You can find a list on the internet if you look quite easily, which just lists a whole load of dates linking different celebrity deaths and to do with different solstice and various other planets aligning and.
Yeah, so there's a little project for anyone out there who wants to look at satanic dates and compare them to the deaths of celebrities and see if there's any patterns there.
Well, that's the problem with the whole subject of celebrity deaths. There's definitely a lot of suspicious elements, but it's actually trying to work out. It feels like there's a lot of pieces of the puzzle to try and put together, but you can't quite figure it out. You know, you start looking at things like celebrities who died at 27, or certain musician deaths or actor deaths. You know, where do you draw the line, and what do you look at really?
Yeah, I mean, some deaths are more suspicious than others. I mean, what about Brandon Lee, son of Bruce Lee?
Well, I mean, to have a gun on set which has a bullet in.
I mean, that's obviously
going to be
murder.
Suspicious to me. Why would you ever even have a real bullet there in the studio? I'm not sure again of the exact details, but it's suspicious, particularly after Bruce Lee's death.
Yeah, that was while shooting the movie The Crow, which was a great film.
Indeed.
I mean, the pistol apparently that was loaded with real bullets had been used in a prior scene. No one realised that one real bullet was stuck in the gun's barrel. So when a blank cartridge was inserted and fired, it provided enough force to push the real bullet out of the barrel. This is the explanation given.
That sounds highly unfortunate or suspicious. I'm not sure which.
Well, again, in this case, conspiracy buffs blame martial arts secret societies that maybe David Carradine was involved with. But while we're talking about Brandon Lee, let's talk about his father as well. I mean, I know there was a gap of about 36 years between the deaths.
He died
but he died suddenly, apparently, from allergic reaction to medication.
Wasn't that while he was doing a film as well, or something similar?
I'm sure it was, because he was always making a film, wasn't he?
That's true, yeah. But yeah, again, it's another one of those possibly plausible explanations, but it does seem a bit strange. He was very young. It's pretty much around similar age, I believe, to his son. Indeed,
and both at the height of their fame, really. I mean, Brandon Lee, he had a lot of years left in him. I mean, he was just becoming, obviously, a really good actor. The Crow was a great film, and I think he would have gone on to become, world famous. He was world famous anyway,
yeah, exactly,
even more so.
But as always, there are corporations in this world, or mafias as well, if you want to call them that, which I do, who, when they see people become famous, they're instant targets to be used for whatever reason, to get in on some of the money, or use them for whatever, to, like I say, promote a message.
Yeah. It's weird, because when they've got the money, when someone's got that amount of money that some of these people have, some of these celebrities have, then people want to get their hands on that money whichever way they can, and there are people out there prepared to kill for it.
Well, Jimi Hendrix is one who allegedly his manager had something to do with his death, I believe, because he was after his money.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all.
He made a reference to the fact that he was going to die, I believe, as well.
A lot of people seem to do that as well, make a reference. Maybe we only know about that with celebrities because a lot of their comments are recorded somewhere. Let's talk about Michael Jackson. He apparently took an overdose as well. I think his doctor has been or is being prosecuted for that.
Well, definitely there's something suspicious over his death. he was making a semi-comeback of sorts, and there'd been a long-running battle with various people around him, the record companies and the media, and there was a lot of people who he was almost being kind of crucified in the press a lot of the time.
He was. I mean, he actually said that they're waging a campaign against me, and if you look at his life, it'd be difficult to argue that someone was doing that. I mean, all the ridiculing him for certain things he did in his life, and there's the accusations of child molestation as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's one which at some point in my life I was convinced that he was, but now I'm not so convinced from various bits of research.
Me too, I have to agree. I saw, we both actually saw this video earlier where Michael Jackson was giving a speech about the powers that be having an influence over the music industry. Can you remember what he was talking about?
Well, he was basically warning against the Illuminati type controlling parties who we don't know about, who run this world as such, or manipulate this world. He was saying, don't trust history.
He knew something. It also seemed to me like he had all his fans there and they were just cheering his every word, but they actually weren't really listening.
Well, that's the thing. That's going off another element. That's something which has been around since started, probably around Elvis Presley kind of times, 50s, again, since the start of the entertainment industry, of initially young teenage girls screaming at people like Beatles, to now you just have obsessive fans for everything all over the place nowadays. And in that Michael Jackson interview, literally it was a bunch of people just screaming. He could have said, we're all going to die today, and they would still have cheered and applauded.
It did seem that way, yeah.
But I mean, related to Michael Jackson, also I think there was a big fight for him wanting to keep control of his legacy, as such, and what his music he's creating. There's people who wanted what he had and could do better out of him if he was dead.
Well, isn't that the case that when he died, didn't he? The sales of his music, wasn't it more than the last 10 years?
Yeah, I believe so, and that made some people very, very rich.
Indeed.
I mean, that links into Bob Marley. I know there's a number of conspiracies around him, and Pete Tosh, who are both in Bob Marley and the Wailers, or the Wailers originally, obviously. But with Bob Marley, again, the band didn't become super famous worldwide properly until after there were hardly any of them left. Just Bunny Wailer and Bob Marley, Pete Tosh, and once two of them are dead, their name became super famous, and Island Records, I believe it was, profited very, very handsomely from it. And I believe if you look up online, you can read about Bunny Wailer's beliefs on this, and they didn't make hardly any money out of it. And in Bob Marley himself, there's the theory that he got an injury in a football match, but that's a kind of common myth that Danny Baker's tackle on him killed him, because the conspiracy theory goes that he already was given some injection by some unknown parties, and he was getting treatment for it from a doctor who turns out it was an ex-Nazi doctor, which he went off for treatment after injuring his toe, and then a few weeks later he was dead. So
were they not suggesting it to be amputated or something like that?
Well, that's the thing. He had an injury, and I think it went gangrenous, and he refused surgery, but he went off for treatment with this Nazi doctor, and he died at a ridiculous accelerated rate compared to how he should have died naturally from getting this cancer.
Mm.
So that's another whole. You could talk about the Bob Marley conspiracy.
You could, we're just skirting over it, like I said. I mean, because you could talk about John Lennon and Bob Marley as well. And Pete Tosh wasn't he the guy that some guys came into his house and they were torturing him? Apparently, I think there was two two that have never been named, and some have suggested that they might be
Well, exactly, yeah.
belong to a secret organisation.
Well, Pete Tosh and Bob Marley have both been, I think, there's attempts on their life a few times previously. With Pete Tosh this time, he'd come home from being away somewhere, I'm not sure, to Jamaica, and three men burst into his house and held him at gunpoint and demanding money, which Pete Tosh said he didn't have any, which they didn't believe, and they, I believe, tortured him. In the meantime, a lot of Tosh's friends were turning up, and because they were coming to welcome him back, and then ended up spiralling out into this kind of standoff where they eventually shot him in the head, and the two people he was with, I don't think they were ever identified, which is hardly suspicious to me. Three people involved in his death, and why is only one in prison? Why are the other two not identified? Which some conspiracy theorists say that could have possibly worked for the CIA or somebody who wanted to influence, yet again, in the downfall of a political musician.
And when it comes to musicians, it does seem to be it's the ones that are singing about peace and love, like Bob Marley and John Lennon, that seem to end up dead.
Well, exactly. You don't get too many singers who sing about vanity getting targeted in the same way.
Let's talk about another frontman of a band, Kurt Cobain, because there's lots to talk about there. He allegedly killed himself by shooting himself with a shotgun. And it was case closed for a while, but I think recently the case has been reopened due to maybe some suicide notes that have been found. One person, and I'm only repeating what the talk is at the moment, is that some people believe that Courtney Love may have been involved. When I say some people, I'm talking about her father. Courtney Love's own father, Hank Harrison, who's never, it would be fair to point out that they've never actually been that close, said he can't prove she pulled the trigger, but he can prove that she was involved. So it'll be interesting to see how that case develops.
Well, I'd like to add a couple of things. First of all, there's no marks from him at all from using the gun, no gunpowder or burns or anything as such, which is a bit strange. Apparently there was some discrepancy with the suicide note and the writing. It seemed to be quite different to what it was in the previous note.
Yeah, I'll read out one of the notes.
Sorry, not the previous note, the previous writing that I think it's, they studied his handwriting and then they compared it to the actual note. There were some discrepancies.
That's right, yeah. I think one of the notes that's been found is sort of hints at marital disharmony. It said, "Do you, Kurt Cobain, take Courtney Michelle Love to be your lawful shredded wife, even when she's a bitch with zits and siphoning all your money for doping and whoring?" That's apparently what the note said, and her father says that he thinks that there's some clues in that note itself.
Well, there's another theory as well about the amount of heroin that he was supposed to have taken would have made it impossible for him to actually use a gun. So
that sounds fairly credible.
But often these credible sort of explanations get mysteriously ignored.
Let's move on to talk about another big one that we've mentioned already, John Lennon. What can you tell me about the John Lennon case?
Well, all I heard about it when I was younger was some nutty Beatles fan had decided to, for no apparent reason, just go and kill one of his heroes, and it was not until I looked into it that I realised that there's a whole lot of very strange information involved with it. The killer,
Mark Chapman,
that's right. He was found holding a book after he shot John Lennon. And,
not only holding it, I think reading it.
Well, yeah, I think
directly
he was
after shooting him.
Reading it. Catcher in the Rye. This is a book he was obsessed with, I believe.
That's right. Yeah, Catcher in the Rye, which is about Holden Caulfield. He sort of identified with the main character, by the sounds of it. Written by Salinger.
J.D. Salinger, yeah. I saw a documentary about Mark Chapman, and he was clearly two sides to him, where he was a very nice, relaxed, chilled person who was really good with kids, and there was a person who ended up doing what he did.
Yeah, he was once like a camp leader, and a lot of people said he had affinity with children and was a really caring sort of guy. But he obviously had a dark side, which other people didn't know about.
Yeah, well, I mean, he claimed he did it because John Lennon betrayed him in terms of having retired from speaking out about things. The way he was just found, almost like it was all planned that he would get caught, and then.
Well, he had no intention of not getting caught. He shot John Lennon and then sat down and read Catcher in the Rye, waiting to be caught by the police. So obviously, and that's why some people say he was a mind control victim. Like he'd done his job, and that was it. He'd done what he was asked to do. He apparently had like I read a book about him. He apparently had like a group of people inside his head, voices that talked to him, like a courtroom. And I remember him. I think the book I was reading was actually written by him. He said that on the day of killing John Lennon, the court inside his head met to decide whether he should go ahead with it, and they decided he should. And I think when he was actually meeting John, there was voices in his head saying, "Do it, do it, do it, do it."
Well, it's a classic mind control example there, of voices in the head that have been programmed in to tell you to do certain things.
Exactly. I mean, Catcher in the Rye apparently also was found in the possession of John Hinckley, so some have suggested that the book itself was some kind of mind control tool or a trigger to actually get them to do something.
Sounds very plausible. It's so hard to be able to prove these things, obviously.
Yeah, I think also Lee Harvey Oswald may have had that book. I mean, I guess if you go to a lot of people's bookcases, then there's going to be similar books if they happen to be book fans, but I don't know. Mark Chapman also did it for the notoriety, but it's still suspicious. You've got John Lennon, who's, if you compare him to the music of today, it's very political in the things it was calling for. Like Imagine, the song Imagine no religion, no countries. These would have been fairly offensive ideas to religious and people and to the government, maybe.
Well, the irony is that's almost like what the original Illuminati message was, which the Illuminati date back to I think it's the 16th century, and their supposed original message was one world of peace and unity and everyone together, no countries, no borders, everyone is living together in harmony. Whereas obviously the current Illuminati supposedly want the same thing, but in terms of enslavement, where they rule over us with one world government, one army, etc. So it was like the antithesis of that.
Yeah, I guess in some ways they should have been thanking him. Let's move on to Natalie Wood. What do you know about that case?
Well, apparently she was on holiday with, I believe her husband, Robert Wagner, and Christopher Walken.
That's right, and I don't think they were getting on too well, Christopher Walken and Natalie Wood's husband.
Well, there's an alleged incident of her argument being overheard and sort of raised voices, and later on of a woman shouting help from the water, I believe.
That's right, she was heard by some other people shouting for a while, but I think that they didn't want to risk their lives into swimming into the water and to finding out what the problem was.
Well, I think there were discrepancies in the fact that she was wearing, when her body was found, she was wearing a coat still, which is strange for somebody who was, trying to stay afloat.
It's almost like someone might have been pushed in the water, although the film I saw, it tries to make out maybe she was trying to go to shore, maybe in a lifeboat, and fell into the water. I mean,
again, I've heard there were scratch marks on the outside of the boat, which is another rather strange fact. But again, you can only, as we always do with any of these celebrity deaths, unless you're personally involved, we can only go by what information we can extract from various reports.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, we'll probably be coming to an end soon, so let's just finish up with a few more. Anna Nicole Smith. February the 8th, 2007, 6 months after the death of her son, Daniel, Anna Nicole Smith was found in her hotel room. unconscious. I don't know if have you seen that video where she's got sort of face makeup on and she's acting very strangely. Some suggest that was while she was under the influence of mind control.
Again, it's the classic what is wrong with her kind of face, such as the guy from the cinema shooting. It's this strange kind of vacant look, just like she just wasn't quite. She was struggling to stay in control of her mind, or her mind was drifting.
You're right. It is similar to the guy from the cinema shooting. Also from. Do you remember seeing that video with Britney Spears where she was being interviewed and asked about the difficult year she had, and she started acting very strangely?
Yes, I mean, it's not. I wouldn't say it's quite the same in terms of a blank look, but there was definitely that was the kind of glitch kind of thing I kind of always describe it as, where somebody just seems to be glitching, like a program glitching on a computer, where there's I mean, people claim she said strawberries at the time, I think, but she was
I think she said strong Britney. But it did sound like strawberries, which would be even weirder.
Which made the rumour even more, the conspiracy even more suspect. But,
I mean, some people should say that she is a mind control victim. She's done some odd things like shaving her head, which some suggest is a part of the ritual, and there was that famous scene where Madonna's walking down the 13 steps at an awards ceremony and almost hands the baton over to Britney Spears. There's, people say there's a lot of ritual involved in.
Well, I mean, again, without saying, that's another whole topic of where you could just have on YouTube or wherever else you have whole videos just showing all the different rituals they do. There's people such as Beyonce, or Miley Cyrus, or Lady Gaga, any of them. There's a lot of satanic imagery, very strange symbolism, which is basically being copied by people all over who are their fans.
Yeah. Let's just go through a couple more. The Manson murders, basically where Sharon Tate was in the home of
the wife of Roman Polanski.
Polanski, that's right. The Manson family turned up, and basically when they walked in, they said, the main guy, I can't remember his name, he said, "I'm the devil." And then they began torturing, stabbing and shooting everyone in the household, including Sharon, who was pregnant, and begged them to leave her alone, but they obviously didn't have enough mercy for her. I think they were their words. And there seemed to be some Satanism or some dark forces at work in that case as well.
Charles Manson was a strange one because he was actually a musician as well. He was a singer-songwriter, and I believe that he had some affiliation with the Beach Boys at one point. Other entertainment artists and actors, I believe, knew him, but then he drifted into this cult, which ended up leading him to be involved with these horrific crimes.
Indeed. We could literally talk about this in a lot of detail. Would take ages, and today we've only just skirted over the topic and really, like I said, just had a conversation like two people talking about what they already know. But we are going to try and get some guests on in the future who will go into a lot more detail. Anyway, I wanted to thank you for coming on today, Ron, for taking part in this program at short notice as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It's been great.
Cool. So take it easy. Thanks everyone for listening. Goodbye.
So as I said before, we're very lucky to have a Hollywood actor with us today. Stephen Shellon is a Canadian actor and voice actor as well. He's appeared in many films and TV shows over the years, such as the TV series Counter-Strike, 21 Jump Street, Outer Limits. I used to watch some of that, a bit like The Twilight Zone. La Femme Nikita, and also movies, big movies, with the movie, for example, Robert Redford's movie, A River Runs Through It, which I really like. It starts off with a bit of fly fishing, quite a relaxing movie to start off with, but then it gets a bit darker. I always get mixed up with A River Runs Through It and Legends of the Fall, because they both got Brad Pitt in it, basically. Stephen was also in The Bodyguard, Gone in 60 Seconds with Nicolas Cage, And Stephen is the voice of David Sarif. That's from the computer game Deus Ex Human Revolution. Sorry for the pronunciation. Different people pronounce that in different ways. So now Stephen is helping to expose the people who are making the world much less than it could be. Stephen can also give us some background info on Hollywood from the inside when he was working in the industry, and how he became targeted for not doing as he's told anyway. So let's go over to the interview with Stephen.
Hello.
Stephen, it's Scott here.
Hi, Scott there.
Hi, nice to talk to you finally at last.
Yeah, good.
So basically, thanks for coming and spending the time to chat with us. It just basically would be nice to hear about, your story about how you became targeted by these people.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they say good conspiracy is one you can't prove, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So that's basically, that's been my dilemma for almost 20 years now. I had worked out of Los Angeles, and I'd sold my house in Los Angeles, and we were living on my farm in Canada, but I was still working primarily out of Los Angeles, and I was starting a production company in Vancouver, and I had a partner who was a lawyer who knew people in the mining business and venture capitalists, and my idea was to start a production company with a distribution arm so that it wouldn't matter if it was made in the U.S. or Canada. The advantage we would have is we'd be able to make movies and distribute our movies as well as other films we picked up at festivals.
Mm-hmm.
And in those days, I knew people like, Redford and Brad Pitt and, different Tim Burton, different film directors and movie stars. So I could actually get people on the phone then. And that was the plan, was to have this worldwide releasing company. And I wanted to call it Rockland Pictures, and my partner wanted to call it Lionsgate.
Isn't there already a Lionsgate?
Yes, it's the largest independent film company in the world. Yeah. It's worth in excess of, I don't even know, $2 billion, whatever. If you Google Lionsgate Entertainment, you'll see some of the films they've made recently, and the sort of money involved in that company, and it's credited to Frank Guistra, who's a multi-billionaire in Canada, who came from the mining business and came from venture capitalists and basically the stock market and whatnot. And my partner's name is nowhere mentioned anymore, so I don't know quite what happened with that. But my partner claimed that his father ran CSIS, which is sort of Canada's equivalent of the CIA, and he talked to me in March of '96, I believe, and said that we never had a production company, and that I should keep my mouth shut about my kids or I was dead. And I should back up and just explain that 6 months prior to that, in October '95, I came home from being down in California to see bruises on my wife at the time's face, and I asked her about the bruises, and she got very defensive. I didn't understand why, because I honestly anticipated a reaction or anticipated an answer. It was from a rake or a piece of wood in the barn, or my son's coloring book.
Mm-hmm.
I never expected this freak out from her. And then later, my son told me, he was 4 years old at the time, about men hitting Mummy, and I'd been advised to go to what they call in Canada Children's Aid. I don't know what the equivalent is in England, but it's child services.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that, and that was the beginning of being thrown in a world of espionage that it's straight out of something from Born Identity or Enemy of the State. I was tracked, followed, death threatened, had constant break-ins. My last conversation with my 4-year-old son, he was 4.5 by that time, I'd recorded that conversation because I was getting so little help from Children's Aid or the police, so I decided to take things into my own hands and record the conversation on a microcassette recorder, which I'd purchased that morning. And I did that, and to date, I've probably made about 300 copies of that conversation, and I've had all but the original micro cassette stolen from. They've stolen it out of cars, apartments, safety boxes, and banks. I learned 19 years ago that if they want to get in a door, if they want to get in a safety box in a bank, if they want to get in your car, they can get in anything. And so I was thrown into this world of intrigue, and it was unbelievable. It was truly, truly, truly unbelievable.
And could you explain what you were going to set up your production company? That's the thing that angered them. What in particular was it?
I don't know if that's that's the problem when I say a good conspiracy is one you can't figure out. The fact that this partner, John Hardy, denied that we ever had a production company, well, that was pretty alarming because I'd spent over a year, close to 2 years, I suppose, putting it together, optioning other people's screenplays, writing my own screenplays, writing my own treatments. And funny enough, when I was on my farm, I had an office in a what had been a chicken coop that I converted to an office and an art studio, and I had all my files for my treatments, my screenplays, ones I'd optioned, and much of that was stolen from me. And I mean, I never did get a lot of it back. And there's been a TV series produced that made a lot of money in Canada called Due South, and I'd written a treatment very similar to what that was. I just found out along the way that initially I just thought she was a prostitute, which she admitted to being, and a call girl, and I had verification of that in France, but I never, I didn't know much about intellectual property theft, and I was very trusting, I suppose, is the appropriate word. So if whether it's Lionsgate, whether it was Lantos and Due South, whether it was because she was came from I assume anyway, from everything I've learned the last 18 or 19 years, she came from a family, I believe anyway, of generational abuse, ritual abuse. She had all the telltale signs of dissociative identity disorder, which is where you have different alters that are built into you. My girlfriend that I'm with now, she's seen my ex-wife go through 5 personalities in the course of about 3 minutes with different voices, different mannerisms.
So you believe she might have been like mind controlled or something?
Oh, most definitely. My girlfriend's mother was a psychiatric nurse, and my girlfriend used to spend time, at the psych hospital visiting her mom, and she'd seen some pretty crazy stuff, but she never saw anything like this.
Yeah. Did you ever yourself express any sort of political views that might have upset anyone in the film industry, do you think?
Yeah, I probably said a lot of things. I basically said things about Canada versus the States, which is Americans used to come up to Canada and shoot their films, and they'd get tax breaks. But more importantly, which has never been addressed in any mainstream media, certainly, they don't pay the actors, or paid them at the time nothing, I don't think, or very little, in terms of residuals. Now, when you do a film, like let's say I did 2 days' work on a film, but the film made $200 to $300 million worldwide. Well, I would get every couple months I'd get a residual check from Screen Actors Guild. And when American film companies worked in Canada, they would never have to pay out residuals to the Canadian actors. So they'd bring up 3 or 4 maybe American actors, and then the rest were local hires, and they never pay out residuals. Well, I probably stepped into a hornet's nest when I pointed out the obvious, which is, that when American companies shoot here, they don't pay out residuals. So as far as political, I don't know if that's political or not, but I certainly voiced an opinion about it. But as far as exposing Hollywood, the call girl activity in Hollywood, I don't know. I really was only concerned about my children, and I wasn't really concerned about what Robert Evans, Jack Nicholson, Redford, anyone else was doing. I simply wanted to know who had, I forgot to mention this, who had threatened my 4.5-year-old son, threatened to hurt him if he talked to his daddy, which was on that recording, the recording I'd made 300 copies of.
Did you ever find out who that was?
Nope.
And the police weren't interested in helping,
No. The last thing you want to do is go to the police, I found out. And most human rights organizations are bogus. And the irony of all of this is that I used to be quite good friends with a guy called Jack Healy, who had run Amnesty and who was responsible for that Live Aid thing that they did in Africa, with Bono and all those different...
Bob Geldof as well, yeah?
No, I guess that's Geldof. Okay, so there was the other one. It wasn't the Live Aid. It would have been...
the one that came later.
Yeah, it was Amnesty International that sponsored it, and that was Jack Healy. And Jack Healy was close friends with Bono and different people. Well, Jack Healy was a friend of mine. I actually had given him a benefit at one point because I was staying at Shane Black's house because I moved out of LA back to this farm in Canada, and then when I visited LA, my ex-wife had helped or been a consultant on a movie called Long Kiss Goodnight, which anyone that listens to this should really check out Long Kiss Goodnight, because I had no idea at the time. I knew Shane Black. He had asked to speak to my wife at one point, and I said, well, she's 3,000 miles away on a farm, and he apparently wanted some translation, but there's no, from French to English, but there is no French in the film. There's no French subplot. There's nothing. But Gina Davis plays a CIA assassin, programmed assassin. So it's quite interesting that my ex-wife was asked to, speak with Shane Black. I don't know what exactly he was asking her.
Weren't you in La Femme Nikita as well yourself?
Yeah, exactly. I was, and that was when I was on the run. I was being tracked, followed, and messed with almost day in and day out at that point. And I'd come to Canada to hook up with a friend who had been on the board of directors of the production company that I was starting. And I came up to ask him some questions face to face. And also everything had dried up in LA for me at the time. And then, so I basically had gone into hiding. And I was in Nova Scotia staying with this friend of mine who, was part of the production company. And, he confirmed everything for me. And yes, I remember we were all starting that with John Hardy and blah, blah, blah. Well, I suddenly, out of the blue, after not having worked for quite a long time, I suddenly got a call from Joe Cerno's office to come in and do 4 episodes of La Femme Nikita. And that's, other than one exception, that's the last time I worked. What was that, 14 years ago? It was absolutely bizarre. I mean, you're talking about programming again. And I was playing a cop who had investigated a rapist killer, and I'd gone to see Nikita, not realizing who she was, and saying, I just want the truth. I just want the truth. And then what happened is she told me, you'll be sorry. You don't know what you're dealing with. All the stuff I'd heard in real life. It was almost like, talk about art imitating life. It was unbelievable. And I'm having to say these lines, and it's like, this is like lifted right out of my own life. So I did these 4 episodes of that show, and I guess that kind of finished me off. I don't know.
Have you ever, since that time, have you ever tried getting back into the industry?
Oh yeah, it's like it's honestly, I mean, that's true insanity, is when you keep trying to get a different result, from the brick wall. Yeah, it's futile and hopeless and finished, and that's just the way it is,
Who do you think the people are who sort of send the order down not to give you the positions or things like that? Who's in control of this?
I don't know. I really don't know.
And do you know of any other actors or actresses that are being targeted, threatened, or even killed because of something they've done as well?
Yeah, it's really hard. I don't want to make I have a term called lunging, and lunging is for anything that feels or sounds conspiratorial, where you jump to a conclusion, but you can't. And this thing is so well orchestrated from the top down that there's lots of questions I have about some celebrity deaths and some celebrities that have experienced problems, like Brittany Murphy, for example. I've actually spoken to a girl called Julia Davis, who it's quite a long, involved story. But if anyone
actually, we have spoken about the background of that. She was the activist who was working on the board with the border agency.
That's right. You got it, man. Good. Oh, good. I'm glad you're aware of it. Yeah. So Brittany Murphy. I don't think she was just hung out to dry. My feeling is they had some integrity, her and her husband, and so consequently they just became liabilities that they didn't mind getting rid of, because they both died, both her and her husband, of really, really odd circumstances. And it just smells really, 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 really wrong. And I know Julia Davis has great guilt, and she feels terrible that Brittany, in fact, got killed. And it's not unusual. And this is something people don't understand. It's I just said to my girlfriend about an hour ago. A lot of people fault me because they say, "Well, why didn't the CIA kill you? Or why didn't whoever's done this to you just kill you?" Well, there were 3 attempts in the very beginning. And then there are other people like me. They don't take out the mouthpiece necessarily, but they'll take out people on the periphery, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. They could.
Like, why didn't they take out Julia Davis?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, maybe they thought Brittany Murphy had more sort of a larger influence.
That's right. That's a good point, actually. That's probably why because they were maybe Brittany Murphy had some private phone conversations that they listened in on, and we don't know what Brittany Murphy had said to other people about it. And when they tried to put pressure on her to lie about Julia Davis, Brittany Murphy wasn't prepared to do that, and she may have had private conversations with other people that the bad guys had listened in on, and they just said, "Wow, we can't allow Brittany Murphy to get loose with this story because we're covering it up." And so they decided, well, we'll just take her out.
Maybe it does seem like 2 people who are sort of in their early 30s, I think, dying of poisoning. Some people say rat poison was found. Even her father believes that she was murdered, I believe.
Yeah, he does, actually. He seems like a guy of integrity too. Like, he seems like a pretty good guy. Yeah. I guess I almost look now for anyone that's called schizophrenic or crazy. There are crazy people, and there are crazy people that claim to be TIs, but there's also a lot of people that aren't crazy. And when you start reading all this, when you go online and even on alternative news, and then the shills come out, which is what Edward Snowden talks about, and the NSA deploying all these people to go online and cause all these disruptions and talk crap about people. Well, if I read a bunch of crap about someone and that they're crazy, I'll listen to the person who they're calling crazy, and then I'll make my own conclusions. And generally, not always, but generally, oh, it's clear as a bell. Yeah, of course they're calling this person schizophrenic and crazy because they're, in fact, speaking the truth. And Brittany Murphy, they did a great smear campaign. Oh, it's so sad, and she was involved in drugs, and, you know, it's drug-related. And they do the fake empathy thing, and then they smear the crap out of someone.
I think
and
you're
the general
right,
public eats it up, you know. Oh, yeah, well, oh, poor Brittany Murphy. Her and her husband must have been, like, drug fiends or something, you know?
Yeah, they do that. I mean, when you say that, I think of Lady Diana, who they sort of tried to make out she was going mad. And then I thought, we were talking about Michael Jackson earlier and how, you know, all the stories that used to come out about him, about sleeping in tanks, and, you know, then there was the child molestation story. And I'm just wondering now, he says he was targeted as well because he came out and started talking about the music industry. I mean, now I'm starting to think maybe he was telling the truth. You know, maybe he was targeted, and a lot of the stories were just a way to discredit him.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. You know, I mean, with Michael Jackson, he was pretty odd, right? I mean, you got to admit, he was.
Yeah, no, he did seem
he
to be,
was an
but isn't
oddball
that
guy.
because of what we were reading in the media, though?
Yeah, yes. You know, that's a hard one to gauge, you know. That's a really tough one. I mean, the sleepovers with kids and stuff, that kind of creeps me out.
Well, yeah,
but
I mean, yeah.
We don't know what really happened because we weren't there, but I know Michael Jackson was really pissed off at Tommy Mottola. And I, you know, that boy, man, I mean, how far down the rabbit hole do you want to go if you accept that they're chemtrail spraying us, and if you accept that there is a great possibility that our human bodies are absorbing nanoparticles, and that we're all basically getting hooked up and becoming almost transhuman. If there's truth to that, and there's a lot of indications that there is, then this global crazy conspiracy is pretty insane. And if they use movies and film and music as a you know, it's called revelation of the method, where they're telling you the truth, but they're doing it with, like, The Simpsons, or they're doing it with a movie. The majority of people just think it's entertainment, and they don't pay attention. I can't tell you my frustration of 19 years of people just assuming, well, you did those movies, you were an actor and a screenwriter, so you just think you're one of those characters in one of the films or the TV show La Femme Nikita that you did. And man, I mean, the design of it is perfect, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, if I was a musician and I wanted to get a record deal, but I got to do the pyramid sign and do the one eye sign and do all this really kind of obnoxious, really stupid. I mean, Madonna at the Super Bowl is the prime example.
Was that the one where she was coming down the steps?
Yeah, all that Egyptian crap, you know, like, it's so retarded, man. I mean, it's just so lame, like,
well, you hear,
that's what you have to do.
I've heard all this stuff, like, and you just wonder how much of it is true, you know. We live in a crazy world, you know.
I also think there's a lot of actors that are completely unaware, but they'll stick those actors like a Morgan Freeman. Like, that guy seems like he's got integrity, and yet he's in movies that are revelation of the method. Most TV series right now in America, because I'm in Canada right now, but we get American programs or stations, and almost all the new series, it's like, man, it's all about the spy game. It's all about transhumanism. It's all about, you know, hidden technologies or future technologies, which aren't hidden or future. I mean, Tesla was working on stuff 100 years ago about, energy weapons and directed energy weapons, and I have a personal friend or a guy I know called Dr. Robert Duncan, who worked on developing this stuff. So, it's not future. And
we're living in a science fiction world, really, aren't we? I mean, what people used to call science fiction, it's all around.
Right,
it's all
you got
around
it.
us now, isn't it? I mean, just today, I think in the news, I read that the first driverless cars are going to be allowed on the roads in England now.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, this whole thing about buying oil or gasoline for your vehicle, like, come on, man, we're so far beyond that. Like, I'll tell you how. I mean, here's how crazy I've gotten with it. I can imagine. I'm not saying I know for a fact 'cause I haven't done it and I haven't been there, but the whole idea of colonizing a place like Mars, let's say, with spaceships that are not fueled by rocket ship gasoline stuff, but actually using Tesla's technologies that he was developing. It's not unheard of to imagine that there's a way with the access of black holes and different things to travel space, but they're not going to be doing it with a rocket fueled ship. They'll be doing it with advanced. It's like the whole notion of these with UFO. Well, the Nazis had UFOs in the Second World War. Like
the Nazi bell.
Why don't people ever? Why isn't that looked at more seriously? Like,
well, there's a lot. I mean, they did used to be taken seriously in the 50s, UFO sightings, but after the 50s, it seemed they were deemed conspiracy theories and just crazy people see them. But there's been millions of people who've seen UFOs.
Well, I don't think it's necessarily spacemen that are visiting us with UFOs. I actually think it's stuff that's been developed with Tesla technology, along with Hitler, Vril Society, demonology, all kinds of stuff. I think that this stuff has been developed. I mean, when you think about the drug trade that's controlled by agencies like the CIA and all the spy agencies all work together. I found that out the hard way. Spy agencies don't work for the country that they're like. They all work hand in hand. Like MI6, MI5 works with CIA, or works with Mossad. I mean, they're all interchangeable. They share information. They're all working for Dr. Evil and his gang.
Yeah, they're working together, but not in a good way. It's it's to
absolutely,
make our lives harder.
Yeah. So I mean, as far as like Hollywood and what they're telling us in the TV series, man, I'm even surprised. I'm like, oh my God! Now they've got a new series called Stalkers or something, which is about stalking people. They've got another one about surveillance technology, tracking everything you do everywhere you go, which is what I went through 19 years ago. And I couldn't understand how, if I use phony names, how if I, sneak around, park my car 3 blocks away, how do they still find me? How do they still knock on my hotel room door? How do they still phone me in the middle of the night, wake me up, death threaten me, or hang up on me? How do I still get harassed repeatedly, no matter where I go and what I do? How do they find me? Well, they've had that technology for a while.
Yeah. When they knocked on your door, who did you open it? I mean, who was it then?
Oh, of course. I ran to open it. There'd be no one there.
Yeah.
Then you run out in the hall, but you don't see anyone, and you're half asleep, or whatever. You're in your underwear. I mean, it's there's a group in England that were soldiers, I think, in Iraq, and a lot of them came back and they were sick and one thing and another, and they wanted to get benefits, and they got cut off from benefits. And then they started yelling about, hey, we want our benefits. And they got targeted. Now, these guys, one of them, they train like bodyguards. These guys are like sneak behind enemy lines, sort of assassin, like,
super
incredible mercenary army guys, right? Mm-hmm. But they don't know. They can't catch them at it. So that sort of gives the whole thing some credibility, because if these guys are trained with that stuff, and even for them, they're shaken out of their boots and don't understand how it's done and can't ever catch anyone at it, then you can imagine someone like me or anyone else. I mean, we're just not. It's done, I guess. I back in the day, I thought it was done all with walkie-talkies communication, like he's coming out the door. I don't know how they did it. All I know is that they did it.
And do you think they're still targeting you now?
No, they aren't. I don't have people waiting outside for me. I don't get knocks on the door. I don't get any of that stuff. They're just happy that they did enough to me, and they do enough to me online, that, I've kind of become, blacklisted. So I don't go through it. I also have a girlfriend and I have people with me. So no, they don't, it's not the same when you're, with others. Because all it does is it gives other people that are with you. Because, for example, I went to my bank where I had a safety box and it disappeared. It evaporated. But my girlfriend was with me this time. So suddenly it's like, it's not just me, it's her too. Mm. And she's like, I've never seen anything. That's impossible. And I'm like, well, you see what I mean?
Yeah, it's always good to have a witness.
And then a few other things. So they don't want that. The last thing they want is someone to collaborate your story. I'll give you one other example. I did a voice job about, 3 years ago for a video game.
That's right. And I got
Deus Ex Human Revolution, yeah. And it was a really good video game, and it won awards, and it was all about transhumanism, but I didn't know until about 3 months into doing it. So I did it over the course of, I think, 2 or 3 years. I'd go in every couple of weeks and do another batch of dialogue. And I came home, and I'm like, oh, shit, you won't believe this. I'm like, I'm doing this voice for this guy, David Seraph, and I'm like, this guy who augments people owns this major corporation. And it's all about ushering in this whole transhumanist agenda. Anyway, I kept doing it, and then the game came out, and lo and behold, it got really great reviews. I got nominated for some best video game in the world kind of awards, and then I got nominated for a Golden Voice Award by some online gamer kids. Well, it was shortly after that, and then some of them had suggested I play in the movie because CBS had optioned it to make a movie of it. And some kids had said, oh, yeah, you should hire Stephen Shellon to play the character in the movie because he's already an actor. He's not just a voice actor. Yeah. Well, right after that, they took a video I'd done with the Truther Girls, which was a spoof. It was on a comedy channel. They ripped it from her channel, which she's never had happen before, Sonia from the Truther Girls. They ripped it from her. They reposted it as something serious about the voice actor, for David Seraph, losing his mind. And then at least 22 gaming sites, mainstream gaming sites, without them ever cross-referencing or looking to see that it came from a comedy channel or trying to find out who Sonia is, whose name I mentioned in it. Instead, I did it as a joke. I was actually making fun of people that take conspiracy theories too far. And what happened is they all carried the same story. Oh, poor Mr. Shellen, he's lost his mind. He's a schizophrenic and he needs help. So that's still, if you Google Stephen Shellon, you'll get like 1 or 2 pages in the beginning all about like me and my fruit fly video and how insane I am, even though it was a joke, and even though they say I mentioned the Illuminati are trying to kill me. I never once in the video, because I don't even like the word Illuminati, I never reference or use the word Illuminati.
Is that the one where you're looking in a mirror? I think I had a quick look earlier.
No, I did that as a reaction to it. I did that to challenge them a little. No, it was it was a fruit fly. It was about fruit flies spying on me. And I talk about smoking a little bit of weed and, for me and my friends anyway, unless we're completely nuts, it was pretty obvious to anyone that's close to me and my friends anyway that, of course it's a joke. But they all carried the same story and slammed me and stuff. So yeah, it makes you wonder about the entertainment business. Why did all those gaming sites carry that that story? Why didn't one single journalist or supposed journalist, why didn't they check the story out, No.
So does that mean you're definitely not going to be in that film then?
No. Yeah, that's not going to happen.
No.
And at this point, I don't think I'd want to be in it, because the more I learn about transhumanism and what that is and what's going on, yeah, I don't want to encourage that. I don't want to facilitate them. Forget it, man. What is it? If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything, or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Is that what it is?
I think so. Well, I'm not going to disagree with you, and it sounds good.
Yeah. No. What about you? Have you gone through any targeting? Have you gone through any weird stuff, or they're leaving you alone?
Well, I've only been doing this sort of radio broadcast for 6 months now, and there's been occasions where I've wondered. I've seen like a white van pull away as I come out of the house. It screeched away, and things like that. But nothing. Sometimes I wonder if I'm going to get stopped at airports and stuff. But no. At the moment, I seem to be. Well, I say I'm off their radar, but according to Snowden, then I think we're all on the radar, aren't we, at the moment?
Yeah, and I think it's just a theory of mine, but I mean they'll stop me from working, but I'm and maybe it sounds a bit vain of me, but I have this theory that these evil fuckers or bastards that are doing this, I think the few of us that are actually seeing through this maze, I kind of feel like they may have some. They're so disgusting and awful. It's not like they're ever gonna respect us or anything, but they have to. On some level, I think they acknowledge that at least we're not dumbed down. We're not buying their Kool-Aid. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you would have to be fairly dumb to accept some of it. I know you said about the Illuminati, the actual name, which I agree with you. I don't think that group probably exists under that name, although maybe they do. I don't know. But did you ever come across any sort of control systems when you were actually in the industry, in working in some of the movies? Like, did you come across any weird stuff like Satanism or
no, I didn't.
Controlling
See, that's
stuff?
the other. No, I didn't, man. See, that's the other weird thing. I wish I could say, and that's why when you sent me the email and I was responding to you. It's like, I really wish I could say, oh yeah, I saw this, and this. No, I really didn't. I really didn't, and that's why I think some actors are really in the dark about the whole thing, and they get these parts, like a Morgan Freeman or something like that, and they just go along and do the film. They imagine that it's some kind of sci-fi movie. They don't realize what they're inadvertently promoting. I don't think all the actors are in on it. I think a few are. Scientology is. That Scientology Celebrity Center was just down the street from where I owned a house. The whole Scientology thing, I went once, and I left. I couldn't stomach it. It was just, I was hoping I'll check it out. Okay, sure. Thinking it was some sort of spiritual something, and then it was so obvious to me just from the one visit that this is just rat shit. This is terrible. This is ridiculous. And yet Scientology certainly has done well in Hollywood.
Well, Tom Cruise seemed to have done okay out of it, hasn't he? Yeah,
and I guess Brad Pitt used to be involved in it because he went out with Juliette Lewis, whose whole family's in it. I think what's alarming is when you get right into L. Ron Hubbard and his association with Jack Parsons, who had developed, worked with NASA, and they had serious satanic ceremonies and stuff. And you realize at the very top of Scientology, it's it's pretty dark what they're worshiping.
It does seem that way, yeah. I mean, what was Brad Pitt like in the time you spent with him? Do you seem like fairly sort of down-to-earth person?
Everyone asks about Brad Pitt. He was all right. My daughter looks amazingly like Brad Pitt, which is kind of surprising, but maybe not. Brad Pitt was pretty young then. It was one of his first films.
I mean, do the cast normally get quite friendly with each other? Do you all chat to each other? Is it just sort of like...
Well, we all lived in the same little tiny, this little motel with four apartments. So like Brad Pitt was actually my next door neighbor, I believe, at this motel where we shot, River Runs Through It in Montana. And, I spent a bit of time with him. He seemed like an okay guy. He wasn't, he didn't strike me as, a whole lot of backbone or anything. I mean, maybe just because he was young. I really don't know. I mean, I don't know what to make of this whole thing. I mean, it just goes to show you, me personally, on a first-hand experience, wow, I mean, the whole idea of celebrity and who gets promoted and who doesn't.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of, because you were both in the same film. That was a good film, by the way. I enjoyed that.
Oh,
film.
Thanks, man.
But you're both in the same film. He went on, he's still pretty successful, isn't he? Isn't he one of the highest paid actors?
I think he still is, yeah.
So...
Yeah, I'm funny. The one thing I don't suffer, thank God, other than remorse about what happened to my children, I don't spend a lot of time or energy feeling envious or jealous of anyone that got promoted. I feel like, when I'm at my healthiest and when I'm the most sort of centered, inside myself, I actually feel a great deal of almost pride that I got thrown into this dark whirlpool, and that I've been saying the same story for 19 years, and I've just watched. Wow, the simplest, littlest thing was, oh, that's outrageous, and I've just sat back and I've watched, and now, like, there's so much revealed. The question is, don't trust alternative news either, because that's been everything gets infiltrated. So you have to form your own opinions about things. I'm lucky that I had first-hand experience, but what's nice is that I've seen so much be revealed, in the last, say, 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people have this quest for fame. It seems to be a big thing these days. You don't even need to have particular talent. People just want fame, and they'll almost do anything to get it. I mean, you don't seem to suffer from that at all, no?
No, not really, no. When I was young, I'd gone to England at 20 years old, and I was kind of short, actually, but I started modeling. And I had, great success in the modeling thing for a couple of years, and then I was embarrassed, and I tried to hide that part of my past, and, never mentioned it in Hollywood and stuff. But I'd gone to New York and done that briefly also, and so I sort of had some success doing that, So maybe I got exposed at a young age, and I never really took the fame thing all that serious. So when I'd go through these slime bags in Hollywood, when they'd approach me, or let's say some gay producer approached me or something, for me it was sort of like, it was so pedestrian and cheesy, it was so bad. I was like, wow, you mean people actually fall for this, or those USC volleyball players fall for this crap? Like, wow,
When you say approach you, what do you mean, sorry?
oh, come to my place for dinner, and then they,
Right, yeah.
they try to move in on you and, make advances and promise to put you in their movie and crap like that. It was by that time, I'd kind of been around the block, and I was like, oh boy, that's so bad, man. You should get some new lines or something. If that's the best you can do, boy. I not that I have anything against anyone gay. I don't, but I'm just not gay, and I had enough kind of weird experiences that, that's not very comfortable. I don't even have my drink drugged or anything like that,
I was going to ask you, because I'm probably going to have to wind up for today soon, but I hope we can have a chat again.
No, I'm really glad you called me. I'm really glad. I wish I could shed more light on Hollywood and the dark, mysterious nature of it. I don't doubt, I know it exists. I know that agencies play a key role in Hollywood, developing projects along with the studios.
You mean
Absolutely.
like the CIA, you mean?
Yeah, well, take your pick, right? Whether it's the CIA or MI6 or Mossad or whoever it is, CSIS, I mean, they're all related, like I said earlier. So I know they physically have an office out there. I know a director that was working on something that got murdered and had his hands cut off, I believe. They found him in a truck, his skeleton with his hands cut off. Gary DeVore. That's pretty interesting.
Is that sort of common information people can find on the internet? Or?
Gary DeVore, yeah. Mm-hmm. Gary, Gary, and then last name DE, capital VORE, I believe. Mm-hmm. It's really weird that his hands were cut off, and he was working with Tommy Lee Jones, his cousin or something, who admitted and had an office and worked for the CIA and was out in L.A., and I think Gary was warned, because I'd seen him back in '97 when I was already getting tracked and followed, and he was excited to tell me about something he was working on, I believe about Panama. And he was a pretty, he's kind of a hard-drinking kind of, throwback to the old days of Hollywood, that kind of tough guy thing. So I don't think they scared him off, and then he just went missing, and then they found him. So his wife and different people have a lot of questions about what happened, to Gary DeVore. And I think that, I'm just saying, the agencies, I mean, this whole thing, this whole world's obviously controlled by Dr. Evil and his gang. So everything that's got influence, and that certainly is the entertainment businesses, whether it's music, film, TV, video games, that's, if you want to control the world, if you want to control how people think, which is ultimately what it's all about, and it really is a spiritual battle. So wouldn't you grab a hold of the most powerful influence, that we have in the world? Well, of course they would, right?
They would indeed. And, you mentioned directors. I think, well, these are the people that make the movies. And, I wonder if sometimes, like you were saying, they get members of the family as well, like that guy who directed Hunger Games.
Right, that's Lionsgate Entertainment. They put that out.
Yeah, and then the son went on a shooting rampage, didn't he?
Oh, yeah, that's right. The cinematographer's son or whatever. Yeah, that was weird.
That was
all
weird.
Those things are weird. All Sandy Hook. It's all weird. It's very weird.
Yeah, I mean, what's your opinion?
And
just briefly before I'm gonna have to go in a sec, but just briefly, what's your opinion on the crisis actors kind of scenario? A lot of people sort of say about Sandy Hook, some of those guys are actors, and about Boston bombing, and being an actor yourself, maybe you can spot them easier. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. See, they're to me personally, they strike me as really bad actors. And I think that this Dr. Evil and his gang have got such a control over the planet right now that I don't even think they give a fuck one way or the other, or give a rat's ass if people can see through it. It's just so poorly done. I mean, that guy that saved the kids and they found him, he found them on his front lawn in Sandy Hook. I mean, what is up with that guy? He's either some kind of weirdo Satanist, bad actor. I really don't know. I mean, it's just, it rings completely false. That's all I know. And the guy whose daughter was killed, and he's laughing before he gets interviewed.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and the coroner guy. I mean,
Yeah, and
they couldn't have made it more obvious. I think they're laughing at us by putting that out there. I think they're mocking us, actually.
Could be. There was one recently. I can't remember her name, but her family were gunned down, were killed, and she was the only survivor. I think apparently the bullet missed her and deflected off her finger or something, which seems a very unbelievable story in itself. But her reaction afterwards, just 2 days afterwards, she seems to be laughing, joking. She's doing this satanic symbol and sort of waving to the crowd. That all seems really odd as well. I don't get that.
Yeah, it is weird. It's weird to think that, oh, gee, Satanists are running the planet because, oh, what are you, a Christian? Whoa, you're like a holy roller? And it's like, well, the more you sort of dig into this dark hole, the more that does kind of make sense that there's certainly the Luciferian Satanism, it plays a major role in all of this. And whether they're bringing demons in from other dimensions, the whole animal hybrid human thing that they're using or doing in laboratories, and they found one in England, all these animal human hybrids. There's something pretty dark going on, like really dark, like, yeah, I don't know. But before you hang up, just make sure you check out Shane Black, Long Kiss Goodnight. That'll be kind of revealing because he talks about 9/11 4 years before it happens.
Okay, Shane Black, Long Kiss Goodnight, yeah?
Yeah, Long Kiss Goodnight. That's Gina Davis, and that was the film that my ex-wife was supposedly making a French into English translation, or English into French, sorry. But, yeah, that movie itself, with the DID, dissociative identity disorder that she showed, exhibited, and just the whole 9/11. Maybe Shane Black gassed and got it right. I really don't know, but it's pretty odd. So Hollywood plays a major role. Transhumanism is what we're kind of being indoctrinated with, and the trick is that we're making kids want to be able to jump off the 20th floor. Oh yeah, I want to have legs that'll sustain me when I jump off the 20th floor. And so they're making transhumanism sexy for some reason and cool. And look at all the Avengers series, right?
Yeah, I mean, it also seems like, as well as merging humans and machines, that they're almost looks like they might be trying to get rid of humans altogether.
That's
and just stick with the machines.
Oh man, you got it. I think that's it. I think that maybe in a really simplistic way, I think that's a great possibility. That's what ultimately the agenda is just get rid of these humans that think for themselves and have hearts and souls and feel things. Get rid of that heart. Create this hybrid transhumanist, quasi-human that you don't have to worry about their souls because they're soulless, and they'll just do whatever you want.
I think if the elite are left with these machines, they should get on well because a lot of them are soulless without emotions, you know.
Yeah, and you're seeing that in your British politics right now, aren't you? With Jimmy Savile and all look at the huge exposure that's gone on in your country recently, right?
Well, they're trying to cover it up. I mean, some people in alternative media have known about this for years. You know, all these high-level members of Parliament, even going up to prime ministers in some cases.
Well, I know about Heath.
Edward Heath, that's who I was thinking of, yeah.
Yeah, man. And those kids were thrown off the boat. They never saw those kids again.
They're going to try and cover it up as much as they possibly can, or just release the information so slowly that within 50 years no one's going to care.
Would you ever go to Jersey and sniff around the island of Jersey?
I've never been to Jersey actually, but I've heard some bad things about
Did you hear about that one at that orphanage there?
Yeah, I heard about that.
That's a scary place, man, and I didn't realize it's one of, if not the wealthiest, certainly one of the wealthiest offshore banking, areas in the whole world.
Yeah, that's right.
It rivals Switzerland, Caicos. I mean, Jersey is wealthy beyond belief.
Yeah, so a lot of them probably hang out over there and get up.
And Savile used to go there.
He did. I mean, the Savile story, I think we've only heard the half of it at the moment. You know, he was best friends. All I'm going to say is he was best friends with members of the royal family. You know.
You got it. You got it, man. But there's people. See, when you get into the black arts and the ceremonies that they do, and what Kubrick was trying to expose with Eyes Wide Shut, and I've got you don't have time now, but maybe at another time we'll do a conversation about Kubrick.
Oh,
and I've
definitely.
got
Yeah,
inside information on
sure.
that. Eyes Wide Shut. There was a pedophile scene. It wasn't just the adults. It wasn't just the hookers.
Mm-hmm.
And it got cut out.
Did it? Yeah.
He died during editing. And then that scene or those scenes disappeared out of the final cut.
Mm.
And Kubrick was trying to tell us something. Why, I don't know. But he was certainly aware of babies and young children being sexually abused and murdered to bring in demonic energies.
Well, you know, we've heard some stuff about that over here as well, because we had a guy called Ian Watkins from the Lost Prophets pop group who's just been put away for that, basically, for sex with babies, actually, not even children. You know.
Oh, it's disgusting. I know. I did read about that. Yeah, that's just insane. And that's one guy that got caught, or one guy they hung out to dry.
Exactly.
So they didn't get behind him because he probably didn't have ties directly, or didn't have any real power other than he was a quasi-celebrity rock star guy.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. I mean, I really hope that they reveal what's been going on with the members of Parliament, because if people can see how disgusting some of these people are, then maybe they'll lose some of the trust they have for power, which people over here, a lot of people still really respect their politicians, which I can never quite understand.
People here still like the royal family.
Because they're bombarded constantly with media saying how amazing these people are. You know, they've got a whole agency that looks after the PR for the royal family. I mean, the more I cannot understand how people can think it's a good idea that a family, just through their bloodline, can get all the money in the world and all the houses they need and don't have to work, you know. It's just unbelievable that the people have been sold this idea. And if you ask 80% of people in England, they'll say they're great. They're bringing a lot of money for tourism. That's all they ever say.
Yeah, that's just terrible. I know there's a British actor called Simon McCorkindale that's now dead. Don't want to say anything too bad about him, but he hated my guts, and I did not like him at all. And he said some things to me in private about his elitist attitude about things, and it was really, really disturbing. And his wife, Susan George, used to date Prince Charles. So that could be part of my problem as well. You just never know.
Yeah, you never know, do you?
Their attitude was what was appalling and shocking to me. And yet, you know, publicly, these people publicly, they go to church, you know, and they give, they have, their orphanages and their charities, and, you know, it's a great big lie smokescreen.
Well, Jimmy Savile had his charities and his orphanages,
of course.
But now we find out, you know, it wasn't quite charity, was it really?
Boy, the average person is just, and I include myself in this, we're just gullible. Because I don't know, I have a theory that if we're spirits and then we come into this world, we're not really, when we're spirits, before we inhabit these human bodies, I don't think we're schooled on deception, lying, and cheating. So a lot of us come in here and we're like, whoa, hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
This is crazy.
And
now we're seeing really how crazy it is.
It seems if you lie and you cheat, you actually do get further in this particular society. You know?
Sociopaths, it's a common, I didn't know this. A friend of mine's going to, a girl I know is going to university, and she's going to be a psychologist, and they study sociopaths, and she did a paper on sociopaths, and she researched it pretty extensively, and it's well known inside of that community that, oh yes, well, intelligent sociopaths, 75-80% of the corporations and governments are run by sociopaths.
That makes a lot of sense. Really, it really does make a lot of sense.
Doesn't it make sense?
Oh, you know, because if you think of some of your friends who you know are decent people, and if you replaced the world leaders with people you know and you've met who are decent people, you know this world would be in a much better state than it's in at the moment.
Yeah, I don't know what we're going to do. I guess we'll have to figure that out the next time we talk.
Definitely.
We have to come up with a solution for. It's one thing to talk about all the ills of the world, but if we're not in problem-solving mode, we just continue spinning our wheels, and there has to be, there's got to be a solution, man. I want to believe it's when more and more people, come to their senses, but that's growing a little bit old, because it seems to be a real division of, okay, the people that are willing to go there, and then the rest of the population, which won't. So there's about 5% of us that are willing to go there, and then the rest just won't. And they've decided that, and they got their feet entrenched in the concrete. They're not moving. They're not going to look around. They're not going to question. Jimmy Savile was just one guy that did some bad stuff. That's it.
That's the thing. I mean, I think part of the solution, I don't know the complete solution, but part of the solution is we need to get control of that powerful force, which is the media somehow. We need to get more and more people into it,
Easier said than done, right?
Yeah. But I agree with you. Next time we talk, let's talk about Kubrick and.
I love it.
Let's
I love
talk
Kubrick.
about the media. Let's talk about solutions as well.
I don't think Kubrick was completely. He wasn't naive, but he'd gone along with things to a certain extent, and then I think he had some kind of major cathartic epiphany or revelation or something where he felt compelled to do something. That's my theory on Kubrick. But I think he was an absolute genius.
Yeah, I'm going to do. I know a bit about Stanley Kubrick and some of his films, but before we talk next time, I'm going to do a bit of research on him. So.
Yeah, and there's a guy over in England. She's a friend of Dr. Judy Woods, who I know. I'm trying to think of his name, something Johnson, but he's English, and he's kind of an authority on Kubrick, and I'll try to remember his name and let you know.
Okay, cool.
All right.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. I'm really glad. Thanks. I was cranky today, and I wasn't in the mood, and then I thought, you know what? Let's just do it.
Yeah. No, thanks for doing that at short notice, anyway, and it's been nice chatting to you, and definitely want to talk to you again.
Great. Thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate it.
Take it easy.
Okay, we'll talk soon.
Have a good day, yeah?
Yeah, thanks. Bye.
So thanks for Stephen for joining us. We really appreciated that. I hope he's going to come back, and we're going to talk about some other topics next time he comes back. I'm going to wind up this episode. Remember, blind belief in authority is the greatest enemy of truth, as said Albert Einstein. I've added a donations button to the About section on the YouTube channel. Feel free to support Truth Sentinel. People who donate over £30 at some point in the future are going to be sent a Truth Sentinel T-shirt. That's a work in progress, though. It's probably going to be could be three to 4 months before I get those T-shirts on the go. But anyway, if you feel like donated anything, however small, go to that, click on the button. Thanks for that if you do. Also, what I wanted to say was, if you'd like to leave any comments, or you'd like to email us about anything, if you're listening and you'd like to come on as a guest because you're an authority on a topic, or you just want to come on and say hello and give your opinion about some of the things you've heard on the show, please email scottsentinel9@gmail.com. And I just wanted to say, have a nice week. Just to quickly say, sorry, topics coming up in future episodes could be whistleblowers. We may be speaking to an MI5 agent, an ex-MI5 agent soon. Honour killings, we're hoping to speak to someone about that to explain the whole mentality behind honour killings. Time travel, also the Dyatlov Pass incident, that very strange incident that happened in the Russian Ural Mountains. Religious cults, I think we're going to address that topic at some point. Parallel universes, the control of scientific fact, I think that needs discussion at some point. But also, if you've got any topics you want us to discuss, just remember to leave it in the comments section, or give us contact us on the email again, scottsentinel9@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening, really appreciate your support. If you hear one show that you don't like, listen to another one, or just hang on there and we'll have some shows that maybe appeal more to you, because we're trying to give a variety of topics. Thanks again for listening. Catch you later.